Why don't we go ahead? I'm going to click the button and make us live on. Oh, they're requiring something here. Sorry, I'm just about ready to go live. They're just making me do something else here.
Modern technology.
That's right. I feel like my name is Joe and I work in a button factory, right?
Gotta love it.
All about pressing the buttons.
Mm-hmm.
I checked all the boxes there. And we're live on YouTube. Yay. Cool. All right, I think we are ready.
Yay!
So, good morning, everybody. My name is Clayton Cheever. I'm the Assistant Director here at the Thomas Crane Public Library in Quincy, Massachusetts. And it's my honor and pleasure to welcome you all here this morning. We are live here on Zoom and on YouTube and Facebook. Everybody's mics are muted. If you'd like to contribute, you can use the tool within Zoom to raise your hand. You can send messages to the hosts. I will press record so that we are going. Good tip. Meeting is being recorded. So we will be making this available for future viewing. You can view this video live on YouTube and Facebook immediately after. So if you're joining us just a little bit late and you're hearing this, that's because we started here just after 10 o'clock. We're going to go for about an hour, but we'll also take the recording from this, package it, and it will be airing several times on Quincy Access Television channel. I believe it's on channel 9 in your dial, or you can go out to qatv.org and see the program schedule and when it's going to come around. We've recorded the past sessions as well. I think we've got about 9 sessions so far that are online, so you can go out and view past ones. So if you find this helpful, if you find it bringing you some peace, giving you some tips about how you can live healthier, be less stressful, I hope it's, I find it personally rewarding, so I hope it's working for everybody else. It's great to have Debbie here, and we have a special guest with Mackenzie, so I will let Debbie do the honors. But I just wanted to do just to welcome you all here. So glad you're all here. And I'm going to duck out, so you won't be seeing me monitoring things, but you're in fabulous hands. And Debbie and Mackenzie, thank you so much for coming in and sharing with us this morning. It's great to see you and have you here.
Thanks so much, Clayton. And again, thank you to Quincy Public Library for allowing me to be able to continue my work out in the community like this. I'm Debbie Lyn Toomey, Tufts Medical Center, Trauma Level 1 Department's Injury Prevention Coordinator. So my role is doing a lot of education around injury prevention so that people do not injure themselves and end up in our trauma department, ER. So today I will be sharing with you a wonderful person who will be talking about nutrition and how nutrition is very important, and just giving us reminders on what we can do to help us live a healthier and happier life so that we are less likely to fall or less likely to be more stressed and just less likely to get sick, especially during this pandemic. So Mackenzie Brown is our speaker for today. And Mackenzie, can you share with us who you are and what you do and tell us about nutrition?
Yes, so I can go ahead and start sharing my screen. I have a little PowerPoint presentation. All right, and can everyone see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So the presentation is just going to be about general nutrition and how that can help with fall prevention. So a little bit about myself. I graduated from Miami University of Ohio, and I'm currently in my first year of a combined master's in dietetic internship at Tufts University. And specifically, I'll be working in Tufts Medical Center through their Francis Stern Nutrition Center. And some fun facts, my favorite winter dishes is an apple crisp, vegetable soup with seasonal produce, and a green bean casserole. So getting into nutrition, we all know as we age, physiological changes occur in our body. Nutrition is an integral component of successful aging. And then some challenges of nutrition assessments is there's limited recalls for diet, food recalls for older adults. There's a vision and hearing decline, challenges in attention span, and variations in dietary intake day to day. So it makes it a little hard to track nutrition in the maturing adult. So to help stay young while growing old, there are age-related changes, and they have a lot to do with the weight and body fat. So older adults tend to lose a lot of muscle, and this is called sarcopenia. And this often increases the chance of older adults to fall. And older adults do need fewer calories because they are moving less and they have reduced skeletal and muscle strength. So some other age-related changes are a decrease in immunity. So older adults often have the declined ability to fight diseases because there is a decline in defense mechanisms, and it can contribute to long-term inflammation in the body. They also have sensory losses such as a decline in taste, smell, vision, movement, and hearing. That's often why a lot of older adults put a lot of salt on their foods. And then there's also a loss of calcium and a decrease in bone density. And this is because calcium intakes are often low. There can be a loss of estrogen at menopause. High salt and protein diets increase calcium loss through urination. And also decreased vitamin D affects the ability of the body to absorb calcium and make calcium. So other age-related changes are gastrointestinal changes in the stomach. So specifically, the stomach lining often becomes inflamed, and this reduces acid secretion. So often older adults will have supplements to help produce those stomach acids and help synthesize, like vitamin B, for example. And so there's often reduced movement, which can also lead to increased constipation. This also has to do with inadequate fluid intake and inactivity. And then for energy needs, there's often reduced energy needs because of decreased activity and decreased muscle, but it is often that older adults don't get enough energy needs. So that's kind of, I wouldn't reduce your calorie needs. And then protein is the same needs as younger adults. Carbohydrates, still eat the same amount, just be careful because you're likely to be more lactose intolerant. And then fat, it's important to maintain a moderate to low fat diet, specifically try and get your lean meats and lean fats in. And so when it comes to rethinking protein requirements, the recommended dietary allowance for older adults is 0.8 grams per kilogram, but current studies show that a more appropriate amount of protein would be 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram for older adults. And this is just to help maintain muscle mass and function. So for example, in a 75-year-old man who weighs 143 pounds, if as of right now, the recommended allowance is 52 grams of protein a day, they could go up to 78 grams of protein a day. And this would be an extra 3 or 4 ounces. So an extra serving of meat. And here's just a list of some high protein foods. Salmon, fish is especially a great way to get high protein intakes with healthy fats. I would try and stay away from red meats. And then for fluid intakes, older adults often have a reduced thirst response and an increased dry mouth. So this can often lead to dehydration, and total body water decreases with age. And then the risks associated with dehydration often are fall risks. So some signs of dehydration would be a dry, sticky mouth, headache, dizziness, or lightheadedness. They can have a decreased urine, cramping in the arms or legs, urine that is dark yellow or amber, and dry skin. And the average adult, women should have around 9 cups of water a day, and men should have around 12 cups of water a day. And then an additional 20% of water intake will be from the foods that you eat. And so some general tips for drinking more water. Remember that there are many sources of fluid. You don't have to drink water if you don't like it. You can try coffee, teas, fruit juices. Also, soups are a good way to get in fluid. Also, popsicles and ice chips. Basically, anything that melts or is a liquid, you'll be getting water from it. Other tips are to keep water accessible. So try putting a pitcher of water near their favorite seat, or if you fill up a pitcher at the beginning of the day, that represents their daily fluid goal. So by the end of the day, the pitcher should be empty. And then experiment with different temperatures. And smoothies and milkshakes are also a great way to incorporate fluids. And there also are some nutritional supplements such as Ensure, Boost, Boost Plus, and Carnation Instant Breakfast that are also great sources of calories and protein. So some nutrient needs of the mature adult. Vitamin D is a big concern because it is needed for bone health and calcium balance. And especially in Boston, we do not synthesize any vitamin D between the months of October and April, I believe, due to where we are according to the sun. So it's very important to get your vitamin D in. Mm-hmm. And then other vitamins are B vitamins, and that is because there is a reduced ability to absorb the vitamin B12 in the stomach because of the decline in hydrochloric acid. And so other minerals of concern is calcium, and that relates to bone health. Zinc, usually people don't have a huge deficiency in zinc, but it does play an important role in immunity. And then iron is still important. The older population may have a limited intake. And then supplements are always an option, but it is always very, very important to consult with a doctor or a registered dietitian before taking them. And so here are just some seasonal winter produce that I thought was interesting. Buying seasonal winter produce, it could be cheaper, more convenient, and they can be packed with more nutrients than an off-season fruit or vegetable. So say if you wanted to make a winter soup, it would be a great idea to use the cabbage, celery, winter squash, and things like that. And then this is a general overview of the My Plate for older adults. And this just highlights, you want to get whole grains, fat-free dairy if you can, or fat-free and low-fat milk if you can. Get your protein, preferably lean meats like fish and eggs. Drink plenty of fluids. And then a great way to spice up food is to use herbs and spices, because often you don't want to increase your salt intake too much. So that's a great way to add flavor. And some other complications with the older adult nutrition is there are a lot of drug and drug nutrient interactions. So if you are taking a drug or medication, I would just be sure to read the label and check with your doctor about nutrient complications with that. And then depression may reduce food intake. And as you age, anorexia is a problem due to loss of appetite with illness, and it can lead to malnutrition. And there are then also vision-related concerns. Other concerns are arthritis, and that will decrease your amount of movement and may interfere with food preparation and eating. There's also issues with bowel and bladder function, and there's an increased risk of urinary tract infection and long-term constipation. So especially with constipation, it's important you need to increase your fluid needs. And if you increase fiber, you have to have increased fluid needs, or else it's going to make it a lot worse. And then also dental health, it may interfere with your ability to chew or swallow foods. And then there's a chance of decreased socialization. So I recommend finding a community. It's great to cook with other people and eat. There may be a decreased interest in meals, and then there may be a decreased ability to prepare meals. And so here are some services that can help with that, like Meals on Wheels, congregate meal programs, supplemental assistant nutrition program, and senior farmers market nutrition program. These are all resources that you can use. And then there is a possibility of decreased income and fixed income that often leads to nutrition-related concerns. And so if you're worried about a loved one, or if you are an older adult, if you're worried you're at risk for malnutrition, you can ask yourself some of these questions, like, do you have enough money to buy food? Are you physically able to shop, cook, and feed yourself? This is just a good list to go through to show if you may be at risk for malnutrition. And then some people may have the opposite problem. So if you are trying to lose a little weight after the holidays this year, some small tips you could do would be, limit soda intake, use extra virgin olive oil instead of butter. If you are eating soup, you could do a broth based instead of cream based. And then a great way to substitute for sugary cereals is a bowl of warm oatmeal. And I personally like to add fruits, peanut butter, and cinnamon. It makes it really tasty. And then to the right, you can just see how, different cereals do have a large sugar amount. And then some nutrition myths is diet sodas. So the use of artificial sweeteners, it's inconclusive how health concerns can arise from that. And it does increase sweet cravings. I wouldn't, diet sodas may be a little better than regular sodas, but at the end of the day, we're just unaware of what aspartame and sucralose can do to the body. And then also, if you are trying to lose weight, fad diets do not work. They're not sustainable for the long term, and they're usually very restrictive. So at the end of the day, it's just important to live a healthy lifestyle and not try and restrict yourself. And so the summary of nutrition recommendations is to encourage energy and protein dense mini meals and snacks throughout the day, encourage adequate fluid intake. And like I said, you could do the pitcher to represent their daily water goal. And then you could also use gravies and sauces to moisten foods if there's issues with chewing and swallowing. And then you can prepare foods with herbs and seasonings to enhance taste and enjoyment. And then you can encourage older adults to eat meals with others to facilitate socialization and greater consumption of calories. And so specifically for the year of 2020, we're faced with the issues of being able to work out because of quarantine. So some options I thought of was you could get up and walk around during TV commercial breaks. You could do socially distanced outdoor walks, workout apps. There is an endless amount of workout apps on your phone that you can download. And then especially at-home workout videos on YouTube and Facebook live stream, you can find any beginner workout you could possibly ask for, like yoga, HIIT, any type of workout. So if you want to put in the chat how you're staying active over quarantine, it's always nice to share with others some ideas that you have. And then to end the presentation, here are just a few of nutrition resources that are reliable. And if you have any questions, you can email me at mbrown16@tuftsmedicalcenter.org, or you can ask me in the chat.
Wonderful. You gave us a lot of great information. Thank you so much, Mackenzie. I do have some questions for you. And if anybody has any questions, please put them, either unmute yourself or type it up in the chat box. So that way other people can read it as well. So one of my questions for you is, and I usually get this confused, the term dietitian and nutritionist. What is the difference? Because I never want to insult anybody by referring them as one. So what's the difference?
So basically, a nutritionist may have some credentials, but basically anyone can become a nutritionist. I think there's a 2-week certification you can get. Basically just a lot more lenient, very easy to get, whereas registered dietitian, you have to go to a 4-year college and do a dietetic program with a major in nutrition. And then you also have to complete at least a year-long dietetic internship to be able to sit for the certification exam. So basically just a registered dietitian has a lot more schooling credentials than a nutritionist would.
Very good.
And then also as a dietitian, registered dietitian, you have to follow future education and meet certain criteria every year to be like listed as one.
Great. Good to know. Thank you. I always get those two confused. And you talked about a term where as we get older, our muscle mass goes down, and that's called sarcopenia. Does that, because of the muscle mass decreasing, does that puts us in a place where we require less calories? Or does it depend on the person?
So usually as people get older, they do require less calories just because there is a loss of muscle. But I mean, with older adults, the more problem is that most adults aren't getting the calories that they need. So I feel like even though they say that, older adults have reduced calories as they get older, it's not really a main concern because most have trouble meeting their normal requirement.
Yeah. And because of the sarcopenia, the decrease in the muscle mass, does that make us weaker?
Yes.
Does that make us, I notice as I'm getting older, it's harder for me to open the jar of pickles or mayonnaise, and I'd have to ask my husband or my sons to open it up for me.
Yeah, definitely. As you age, you lose muscle mass, and that's why falls are more likely as you age, loss of balance, strength for doing activities.
Is there a way to restore the decrease in muscle mass, or is there a way to prevent it from decreasing anymore?
Protein intake will help that a lot. That is why it's really important, as you age, to make sure you're getting your daily protein amount. And that's why it was even interesting that, in the future, the recommended amount of protein may increase. And also, staying active will help prevent loss of muscle mass, and trying to just stay active, get your calorie needs, protein needs. That's probably the best you can do to remain strong.
Got it. Now, as far as you mentioned the amount of protein that's recommended, if people do not have a scale, a food scale, what does it look like? Would it be a portion of protein, be it the size of my hand or a fist?
Yeah, so usually they say a serving of protein is the size of your palm or fist. It's about 3 ounces, I believe. So like one piece of chicken breast would be like an adequate protein amount for one meal. And
I'll just talk about food's making me hungry.
Also, if people are struggling getting their protein and calories, the Ensure Boost and Carnation instant breakfast drinks are a really good source of getting additional needs.
Very good. Now, you also talked about adding more flavors to the food, so that way less likely to add more salt. So would Mrs. Dash be something that you would recommend, or adding more cinnamon to like oatmeal? What would you recommend?
I would, when picking out seasonings, I would try and stick as natural as you can. So like cinnamon would be great for cereals. I personally use cilantro a lot, thyme. I have a whole spice cabinet, but I just try and use the most natural ones you can, but it really is a great way to add flavor and reduce salt intake.
Definitely. Now, there's something that you mentioned that I really have not heard of before. Maybe I did when I was in nursing school many moons ago, but I forgot. You mentioned that as we get older, the lining of our stomach changes, which will impact the acidity level, the amount of acid our stomach makes, which, because of that, will impair our ability to digest and also receive nutrients.
Mhm.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So as you age, the stomach lining gets inflamed, and basically, if you were to eat food that had vitamin B in it, you're not going to be able to synthesize it as well as you were when you were younger. So that is why sometimes a vitamin B supplement or a supplement that increases acid secretion in the stomach is important.
Can you tell me what the vitamin Bs do? How important is that?
So they are really important for cell growth. They help with energy. Um, they help with fatigue. They are mainly found in meat products. They're high in seafood, meat, egg products, leafy greens. That's why I don't know if anyone is a vegetarian, but if you are a vegan, you often will be placed on a vitamin B supplement.
Okay. All right. So what are the basic supplements that most aging adults typically are on, or maybe should be on, to help them be able to live a stronger and healthier life?
So mostly you could just take a normal multivitamin, and that usually has calcium, vitamin D, iron. And then there are specific B complex vitamins that you could take if you do think you are not getting enough of that. And then also, yeah, I would say vitamin D, calcium, and iron are like the main ones. And that's usually what's in just a basic multivitamin.
Yeah. Yeah. So taking a multivitamin, that makes sense. Okay. I know there are some vitamins that you absorb it better if you take another supplement.
Mm-hmm.
Correct? Is it like C and D, or calcium and D?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. And that's usually why they're paired together in the multivitamin too.
Yeah. So somebody could be taking a lot of calcium supplements, but they may not be absorbing all of it if they're not taking like a vitamin D. Correct? Okay, gotcha. Wonderful. Now, as far as you showed us a plate, the nutritional plate, right? And how often should we eat that robustly? Is that something, that plate that you showed us, is that something that's recommended for the aging adults to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, twice a day, once a day? What's the recommendation there?
I mean, theoretically, it's nice, to have variation at every meal, but I understand that that is hard to do. So I would aim to try and get every meal, get your dairy, fruits, and veggies in. But say at lunch, if you don't want a fruit, you could easily have a fruit for a snack. So it's just, as long as by the end of the day, if you're getting a well-balanced meal and variation, that's fine.
Yeah. Can you so as far as the aging process, do you find in your studies that as we get older, people are eating less frequently, less volume? I myself I don't have the 3 meals anymore. I've cut down to maybe 2 and sometimes 1. Do you find that that's kind of normal for some people as they get older?
Yeah, it definitely is. And this can be because of, taste loss. You're just not enjoying your foods anymore. You do have a decreased appetite as you age. It's definitely a main issue that older adults are not getting the amount of calories they need in a day. And that just comes from the many things like not digesting your food as well, decreased sensories. Or it even could be, people, if you have trouble moving around and like cooking for yourself, you're not going to be inclined to make a whole meal when you have like arthritis or something like that.
Right, right. Can you give us some nice other tips for the aging adults. Where, you know, the COVID, it's surging because of the holidays. You know, I'm here at Tufts Medical Center, and I just got off of a meeting real early because just to prepare for the program here. But, you know, we're talking about our bed situation is becoming really tight because we have a lot of sick patients. We have a lot of not just COVID patients, but our typical sick patients for this time of the year, and how everybody is just so strapped. So, you know, the numbers are going up. What suggestions can you give to the aging population during this time, this particular time, to help us be able to continue to nourish ourselves and also to keep ourselves healthy and safe?
Mm-hmm. So I would say it would definitely help for you to plan your week out. Before you go grocery shopping, make sure you have all the essential foods you need. You know, make sure you're planning proper meals with protein and calories, and that it'll last you efficiently enough to when the next time you shop. And I know for some, if you are weary about going in store, there are many different services you can do now. I know Amazon Prime, you can get Whole Foods delivered. There's Instacart. That would be a great way, you know, for you to stay home and stay safe, but still get your groceries. And I would really just say, you know, try and get nutrient dense foods as well. You know, pick peanut butter over I'm trying to think of an example. Pick foods that have more calories and protein in it instead of like empty calories. So say like if you want a snack, do peanut butters and crackers instead of just popcorn. You know, pick foods that are going to supply you with nutrients.
Yeah, definitely. Again, we have a lot of people on the call today, so thank you so much for showing up. If you have any questions for Mackenzie, now is the time. Please type it in the chat. I do have other questions in the meantime, though.
So I did get one question, and it was, can you build muscle mass by walking or swimming in an ocean or a pool? And yes, you can. That's a great way. A really easy way to get moving, and it's light on your joints. That is certainly would be a great exercise for you to do to increase muscle mass and endurance.
Yeah, definitely. And also walking, you know, we're not for this particular example, walking or even jogging. I know it helps with osteoporosis because that movement, it helps kind of activate the different bone cells in our body. So another great motivation for us to move around. I know that there's a study out there. It's a mindfulness studies, and this is basically it's to relate to the fact that, you know, people are feeling that they're not getting the exercise that they should be getting. They're not able, if people tend to go to the YMCA or to the gym or to go outside and walk, and because of the pandemic, just remember that doing a lot of or your typical household activities, cleaning, making the bed, you burn calories. There was a study that was done, it's a mindfulness study that was done, and it showed that when people are just informed of the fact that any type of physical activity you do typically every day will help you burn calories. So, you know, just that mere knowledge that any type of movement is allowing us to burn calories, which will help with our overall mental health and well-being, is so important. So thank you so much for sharing about that. So I want to ask you, for people who go to the grocery store and they buy their produce, what do you recommend, or what's the latest studies out there as far as how to wash them properly, so that way you know that you're getting the germs out of the food? You know, we get a lot. I buy some pre-washed salads, or when you buy the romaine lettuce or the cabbages. What do you or even grapes? What do you recommend is the best way to wash our fruits and vegetables?
That is actually something I don't know too much about, but I mean, I can share what I do. I just rinse off my vegetables, and I've never had a problem with it. But I'm sure there are many studies about it. So if anyone does have interest in that, they can shoot me an email and I can give them some research on that.
Yeah. Oh, a couple of questions, comments from the chat. Can you build muscle walking? So, okay, good. All right, great. Yeah, we addressed that. So the answer is yes. Oh, and Quincy Access TV has exercise classes every day from the senior centers. Yes, definitely be able, tune into that. There's a lot of different resources on YouTube, on Quincy Access Television, so that you can experiment and pick and choose which exercises you want to do. There's some exercises that's actually good to do before you go to bed to help you relax. There's some that's good to do when you wake up in the morning to help you feel more awake and more focused. There's some that's good to do midday to kind of help you keep more awake, because we tend to get that afternoon slump, right, with the energy.
Yeah, YouTube definitely is an amazing source. You don't have to pay money to go to workout classes and go to the gym, and especially now because of COVID, it's a great resource. Like I know I personally have done multiple yoga classes off of YouTube, and they even have just like quick 15-minute workouts. I'm pretty sure, like, you can just find basically anything. It's an amazing resource.
Now you mentioned hydration, how important it is. And when I was creating my falls prevention program, I had to, call the nutrition department at Tufts, because I wasn't sure about letting people know that it's okay to drink coffee or tea, because as a nurse, I know that these two fluids can make people pee. So I was trying to make sure that I was giving the right information. But what was shared to me was, if those are the only fluid that they love to drink, then allow them to drink it.
I mean, yeah, something's better than nothing in this case. Some people just really don't enjoy drinking water. And so it's just important to get it in any type of way. Yeah. And even, like I said, you can do that through like popsicles and soups as well.
Yeah. And as far as, you mentioned soda, but would seltzer water be good?
Yeah, seltzer water is great. It's definitely a great way to get in fluids without like the added sugars. Or the like aspartame and sucralose.
Aspartame, yeah. Oh, I love seltzer water. They have different flavored ones too. Yeah. The Gatorade. Can you talk to us a little bit about Gatorade?
Yes. So with Gatorade, it's still a great resource for fluids. You should just be a little knowledgeable about that they do have sugars, and some have more sugars than others. So, always read the nutrition label, try and get ones that may have a low sugar amount. But it's still a great way to get like your electrolytes and minerals from that.
Yeah. I remember a few months ago, I was at work and I got a call from my husband saying that he's not feeling well. He's a little bit dizzy and he's having GI problems. And, and it wasn't luckily COVID, but it was just a regular, bug that he had. So before I went home, one of the things I bought him was a 6-pack of Gatorade, because I wanted to make sure that he was hydrated and got the electrolytes that he needed, because when diarrhea happens, we lose a lot of electrolytes. So I wanted to make sure that was replaced. It's almost like when babies, right, have diarrhea or they have fevers. We want people we give them Pedialyte. So Gatorade's almost the same for adults. Would you?
Pedialyte also is a great resource if you enjoy the taste. It's a great way to get your electrolytes and fluid in.
So can you give us you mentioned some fun facts at the beginning of the presentation that you like apple crisp, is it?
Yes. So apple crisp, me and my roommates made a lot this past winter. And it is a great way, for a sweet dessert. And, there are unhealthy ways you can make it, but there's very easy ways to make it more nutritious. So, including more apples, less sugar, doing like a whole grain, like oat. What else did we do? I think we used, we did like coconut or coconut butter. I forget, but there's just so many different variations of making that dessert healthier. And we did it with I think some vegan ice cream or almond milk ice cream based, and it was just delicious. And so basically when you go online, you can find any way to make a meal a little more nutritious than it may say it is.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my gosh, you're making me hungry.
And when you cook, maybe not use margarine or butter, but try and use extra virgin olive oil. A huge thing now is like coconut oil and avocado oil. There's many different variations you can use.
Yes. So this, as far as natural sugars compared to the processed sugars, what's the recommendation out there? The processed sugar are the white, like the ones that we'd buy from companies like Domino's, as opposed to the natural sugars. Can you give us some information about the benefits between either one, or if they have any benefits?
So obviously, like white sugar, it's not going to be good for your blood sugar levels. It's really going to spike them. Whereas it's just better to do more natural sugars, like in fruit. Like it's not going to sway your blood sugars as much. It's not going to have as many calories in it. It's always better to try and find foods that have natural sugars in it than added sugars or processed.
So natural sugars like maple syrup, honey, like that.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, oatmeal, instead of adding sugar to your oatmeal, you could add maple syrup and honey or cinnamon. Also cut up fruit. That's a great way to add flavor, add sweetness without just adding straight up sugar.
Yeah. Now I know that cinnamon has been studied as far as, you mentioned cinnamon, you mentioned, I believe, glycemic index, or maybe I just heard that in my brain. Can you give us like the correlation? How are they tied together? How does cinnamon help with our glycemic index, and why is that being used more for people who have diabetes?
Yeah, so don't know too much on this topic, but I would just think that cinnamon, it being a natural substance, it's not going to spike blood sugars as much and be as much of a drastic change as regular sugar would be. It's going to help stabilize like diabetic patients' levels.
So you don't have the peak. Yeah, because when we eat sugar, we get the craving satisfied, and then we have that boost of energy, right? And then with the processed sugar, we end up with a crash, right? And that's when we start getting hungry again. And then sometimes, I know I get it, I get like anxious, or I just get weak or a little dizzy because I know my sugar has gone down way too fast, faster than what my body wants. And then it makes me want to just grab whatever is sweet that is in front of me. So it creates this negative cycle. And
sugar is dangerous because it is addicting. The more sugar you eat in a day, the more you're going to crave it, the more you're going to want it. So, it's just like something to pay attention to, because you don't want to get in that like endless cycle where you said, you have a sugar high and then you crash and then you crave it more.
Can you give us some sauces, some food that has like hidden sugars that we don't really know is there? So that way we're more aware when we are eating it.
So like tomato sauce and pizza sauce, you can find a lot without added sugars, but if you go in your cabinet right now, there's a high chance that they have added sugars in it. Some other sauces, yogurt's another big one that can have added sugars. And then yogurt, tomato sauce, you know, ranch and ketchup, those are all going to have sugars as well.
Definitely. They use the sugar to enhance the flavor. Is that what they do, or is it as a preservative?
Yeah, I believe it's probably used just to, you know, enhance the flavor.
I know. Yesterday, my middle son and I were experimenting because I like to use leftovers and cook it into something different. So we had mashed potatoes because my husband made a boiled dinner, and we had this bowl of mashed potatoes. So I said, let's turn this mashed potato into something else. So we added some scallions to it and a little bit of salt and garlic powder, and we ended up frying it on olive oil. So we had like almost like a scallion potato pancake. Oh, actually, we added some baking powder to it to make it kind of like puff up a little bit. It was so good.
That sounds so good. You know, like one of the easiest things I do, like at the beginning of the week, is I'll buy seasonal produce, roast it, and then I have it all week to add to any meal I have, like pasta, rice, soups. It's just super easy, you know, cook it right when you get home, get it out of the way, and then it's easily accessible to eat at any time of the week.
Yeah.
I found that was a great way to help me get my vegetable intake in.
Yeah. So you're telling us it's really important and also convenient for us to really think about our menu in a way for the week, so that we could go to the store more effectively and efficiently. And also once we're home, we can cook it and be able to know when we can kind of use it and also know what's available for us. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely helps, you know, before the grocery store, kind of look what you have. You don't want to, you know, buy things you already have and have food waste. But it definitely helps to have a general plan of foods that you could even just buy and that are easily added to other dishes. So if I buy carrots, you know, I could add that to like a stir fry, soup, a pasta. Like I don't just have to buy carrots and like eat it with hummus or ranch. You can find different ways to tweak things.
Okay. So we still have a few more minutes left, so I get to ask you more questions. But please, if anybody is on the call, type in your questions, because now's the time to ask. It is January, so people typically have diet questions or questions on how they could kind of look better for the warmer weathers. So my next question is, this is more, I'm thinking more about people that you see at the hospital. What are their typical needs? What are their typical questions or problems that they have? And how do you all in your department support those questions?
Yeah, I would say the main problem we see now is increased diet intake, and then, you know, people just high sugars, high fats, and then people not really wanting to make the change because they think that switching to like a low fat, low sugar diet would be unenjoyable. That's the main thing, is people are hesitant to want to try different things. But I would say, you know, try different things, you know, do different modifications to foods. You may find something you really like and you may feel better physically from it afterwards. I would try and do different things instead of thinking that it's just not going to taste good, because there are really a lot of ways to make healthy foods very tasty.
Yeah, definitely. Now, can you give us any type of recipes that might be different but fun but very nutritious? Do you have any to share with us?
So a main thing that I like to make a lot, I've talked about it a lot in this presentation, is stir fry. I think it's a great way, you know, to rice, especially whole grain rice, is a great carbohydrate. And then, you know, you can add basically anything you want. Veggies, protein sources, you know, that's just a great meal that you can customize yourself. I'm trying to think, you know, different soups too, especially in the winter. I know I like to eat warm things. So making your own soup instead of buying per se like a processed soup at the store, you could easily buy your own like low sodium broth, put your own veggies in it. And that's going to be a lot better than like the high sodium soups that they have pre-made at the store.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then I know right now it's cold, but Boston has a great couple of farmers markets that I really recommend going to once it gets a little warmer out. It's a great way to go out in the community and, you know, see the produce, try something new that you've never tried before, and get fresh, nutrient-dense foods.
That's good. Good to know. Now, for those of us who, some people live by themselves. Some people have family, but you know they're not able to, you know, come and join them for a meal. What are some fun ways to still feel connected and feel like you're eating with your close friends and family? What are some ideas that people have been doing during these quarantine times to feel connected?
Zoom dinners are very popular. So FaceTime, Zoom your family and friends while eating, you know, share a dinner together. I know I've done that a couple times with my friends. And that's a great way, you know, to kind of have some socialization during this quarantine time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One question we got is, what would you say is the best canned soup in terms of nutrition, calories, and sodium?
Good question.
So every brand is going to have some soups that are better than others. I personally really like the Amy's brand. I can pull up a picture of that, but when you are buying soups, you know, I would look for the ones that are, if you're trying to decrease fat, you know, don't do a cream-based soup, but maybe try a broth soup. And then, you know, there's tons of options for low sodium. And then obviously looking at the nutrition label and just comparing. That's going to be the best way to find the best soup, is to compare them, see which one has the least amount of sodium, maybe more amounts of vitamins and minerals in it. And so it's hard to say like a specific brand, but getting familiar with the food labels is a very nice thing to be able to understand, you know, the difference between two different soups right next to each other.
Yeah. I'm starting to think that when you look at the nutritional labels or even the ingredients in a product, the less ingredients, that's the better. And if the ingredients are basically supporting the actual product that you're buying, perfect. If you start reading something that has all these chemical looking preservatives or fillers or flavor enhancers, you know, you would have to kind of use your best judgment on that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
When I go shopping, I definitely try and look for, you know, if you can't pronounce or you don't know an ingredient in a food, that's a good indicator that it is processed, and that there are artificial things in it. Whereas, you know, it would, to just look at a soup and see, you know, chicken, broccoli, chicken broth, like it's, when you read a nutrition label, you will definitely be able to tell some that like you just have no idea what's in it.
Yeah.
And that could be like artificial sweeteners and different like preservatives for the food.
I used to love low-fat muffins from the bakery. And depending on where you buy it will depend on the taste. But for the most part, eventually I discovered that the low-fat muffins, because I thought that was the best way to go. The low-fat muffins are sweeter than the actual regular muffin, which to me, and even you could even in the low-fat dressings. So when you see low-fat in the product, just make sure that you're looking at the sugar content as well, because they're tricking us, because they want to be able to bring out the flavor somehow.
And it is important. Artificial sweeteners are usually a lot more sweet than regular sugar. So like if you use 1 pack of Splenda, I think Splendas are like 200 times sweeter than regular sugar, but then you just need to realize that your body is going to, even though it's not actual sugar, your body is still going to crave that sweetness and sweet food.
Yeah.
Even if you are just consuming artificial sweeteners.
Yeah. It's just way too sweet for our body to kind of like process, really. Yeah. So we're almost done here. And I do want to end it with a very important question. Not very important, but can you talk a little bit about wine? The benefits of wine. Is there any benefits to wine? If so, which one's better for us?
Red wine is definitely better. Let's see. Also the important thing is wine may have a few health benefits, but always in moderation. I don't think you're not going to really see any benefits if you exceed a glass a day or like a portion a day. So if you do tend to reach for wine at night, I would pick red wine and try and limit the amount that you have. But like looking up right now, it says it can lower cholesterol. I don't know how true these are though. It's important, to take a grain of salt with what you read on the internet.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, I've heard that red wine is better for us than the white. And as far as you mentioned glass, there are little glass, there are big glass. So, depending on the color of the wine will depend on the proper portion, correct? Yeah. Yeah. So 1 serving is good to have with your meal, right? Yeah. Or moderate. You could have 1 or 2, as long as you're keeping safe and healthy and you're not likely to lose your balance, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's also important, make sure you're not getting your calories from replacing calories with alcohol. You still want to get your whole meal, all your nutrients from your meal in, and then maybe have a wine, say, once you're done, to make sure that, the alcohol isn't filling you up first.
That's a very good point, because alcohol has sugar, right? So that's something to consider, especially if people are diabetics, correct? Yeah. Can you give us 1 or 2 tips before we say goodbye to the lovely group of people? Any other parting tips for us to borrow so that we can kind of begin this year on a positive and healthy note?
Yeah, definitely. I would say, just try and stay active, whether that's just walking around your house during TV breaks, maybe lifting some cans of soup in your free time, stay moving any way you can. I know it's hard right now because it's cold, there's COVID. And then definitely, when you're looking at foods, the best is variety, moderation, and, as much natural foods as you can get, produce, not processed, is the best way that you're going to get nutrient dense and all the nutrients you need.
Great. Well, Mackenzie, I want to thank you so much for being my guest speaker for today. I learned so much, and I hope everybody did as well. I just want to remind people I will be back again in 2 weeks That's January 26th, Tuesday at 10 o'clock. And I will have another guest. Her name is Katie Kowalski. She is the Injury Prevention Coordinator for Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center. And she'll be talking about, actually, she'll be with us that Tuesday and also the following Tuesday. She'll be doing a two-part program with us on falls prevention and how to stay strong and healthy during these times. So I want to thank you all again for joining us. Mackenzie, thank you so much for being here. Clayton,
Thank you so much for having me.
And I wish you all a happy new year and a healthy and happy one. So take care now.
Happy New Year. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.